Imagine this. You are a piano player and you are playing for a church service or a Christmas service or an Easter service or any type of environment where you would be handed this, a hymn out of a hymnal. It's a very specific type of sheet music to read. Are you supposed to play this like this? Are you supposed to play it like this? Are you supposed to do something like this? What are you supposed to do with it? Because this is actually a pretty big issue in the piano world. Why? Playing in church services or holiday services is very common. I have tons of students who have been the church pianists for their local church, or they play for a lot of services around Easter and Christmas time. I myself have played for hundreds of religious services over my life, but playing sheet music out of a hymn is a special type of skill set because if you've ever tried it, the sheet music out of a hymnal is different than what you would get from other type of piano sheet music. So we're going to dive into this today. How are you supposed to approach playing piano out of a hymnal, looking at the sheet music? What limitations do you have? What creative freedom do you have? And how do you make it work to the point that you feel like you're doing a really great job and you're making beautiful music, which is what you're supposed to make in a religious service? How do you turn a hymn into that? So let's dive into it. If you don't know me, my name is Matt Hodge. For the last 15 years, I've been a music professor and a professional piano player, and I've worked with hundreds of students, and I love helping people discover the joy of playing piano in a bunch of different ways to approach it. And I can tell you this specific topic actually comes up a lot. It's not talked a lot about in the piano community, meaning there's not a lot of special classes or books, or even when I was being trained as a pianist, it wasn't talked a lot about. What are you supposed to do with the hymn? It's just sort of assumed you'd figure it out once you get there. That's not good advice. And I promise you there are special tips and tricks that go with hymns that are a little different than what you would have with other piano type of playing. So if that's you, let's dive into it. I'm going to show you in this video 2 popular ways that you can be asked as a pianist to play a hymn for a specific type of environment. One is if you are playing for a congregation, meaning a group of people are standing up and singing this hymn together. The second way is if you are playing it for a soloist, a singer who's standing on stage and singing the song like a special type of music or a special song presentation, almost like they're in concert. 2 totally different ways to approach a hymn. And we're going to talk about why is a hymn different and why is it a little awkward to play as a pianist. Let's dive into it. Okay. First off, the big question, why are hymns out of hymnals awkward to play at times? The sheet music looks sort of deceivingly easy because you always seem to just have a couple of notes in treble clef, a couple of notes in bass clef, but then as a piano player, when you go to actually play them, it can feel like awkward fingering and weird leaps and clunky chords. Why? Because hymns were not written with piano sheet music in mind. They are written with the voices in mind. The sheet music in most hymns is written for a choir. It's written for if you have soprano singers, alto singers, tenor singers, bass singers. That's why hymns usually have 2 notes on treble, 2 notes on bass. It's not saying that as a pianist, you're supposed to always play these clunky 4-note chords. It's outlining if you were voices singing it, this would be the voice parts. That's a big thing to remember because within that is your limitation, but also your creative freedom as a pianist. So that's a big thing to remember. Now, if you are playing for a congregation, the thing to keep in mind is, well, this is a big group song. It's communal, right? It can be 25, 50, 100 people, 200 people singing it together. Well, if that's true, your main job as the pianist is to do a couple of things. First off, you want to make sure you bring out that melody, right? Communal singing means we're all singing the same melody. You also want to keep a steady beat, a steady tempo, and I'm going to show you a specific way to do that. And you want to make sure that the energy matches a group singing. So what do I mean by all of that? First off, when you are playing for a congregation, the melody is the most important. So if I was playing Amazing Grace and it was for, congregational singing, I would really want to make sure I bring out that melody. Right? Like you really want to bring the melody out. You want the melody to be strong. Now, along with having a strong melody, you want to keep a steady tempo and a beat. Now, here's where there's sometimes a problem with the hymns, because remember, it's written for voices. Let me play just the first top line, okay? The top line of this hymn. Listen to what happens at the end of the line. So, do you hear how at the end of the line, it just kind of rings and hovers? Why? Because that's what singers would do. Like me, right? But you as a pianist, you need to help keep time. So I have formed the habit of really make sure that I'm keeping a steady beat in time so you can fill in some of that stuff. So for example, with congregational singing, congregational singing, with congregational singing, you want to have a nice steady beat. So I would probably do stuff like this. Right? I'm helping to fill in gaps where the singing, the melody may have longer notes, but I want to really play something on every beat because I'm helping to keep that steady tempo, right? Because you want to feel bum, 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 bum. So I'm doing that in different ways. I'm adding more rhythm, I'm adding quarter notes, I'm doing arpeggios in the left hand. I'm doing things to fill in that sound, right? I want to have a steady beat. And that also will help with matching the energy. Remember how I said we want to have a nice energy with group singing? That usually means it's bigger energy. Now that doesn't mean play as loud as humanly possible, but if I'm having everyone in the sanctuary is standing up and singing, I'm probably not going to do this. Right? I need to play as if a lot of people are singing. So that means having good volume, having power, often adding like octaves in the left hand. Right? Having a lot of that power in your sound. It just helps give energy to it. So when you are playing for a group of people and everyone in the congregation is standing up and singing the hymn, you want to make sure that you're really bringing that melody out, that you have a lot of power and energy into how you're playing, and that you're helping to keep a steady beat and a tempo. And if you have parts of the melody that the note is long, you're filling in that time with steady rhythm and helping for everyone who's singing to feel the beat of the song. Now, option number 2. What if you are playing this for a solo singer, a soloist who's standing on stage and it's more of a concert presentation, like a special song, which I often play for a lot of religious services as well. Usually when that happens, you want to make the hymn, the sheet music from a hymnal, sound the way that accompaniment from other types of stuff would do, right? If someone gave me a pop ballad that they're singing on stage and I'm accompanying them, the sheet music would probably have quote unquote real piano sheet music, right? It wouldn't be like clunker chords. So it's my job to then do that, right? Usually a singer is going to want something that sounds more like real piano accompaniment. So 2 ways to do that. First off, this is sort of the opposite of the group communal singing where the congregation is singing together. I would really back off of the melody. Oftentimes singers don't want the pianist to just play the melody with them because they want to have some freedom. What if they want to do an interesting sort of vocal riff or hold something or change a note in a melody? We don't just want to play the melody exactly with them, because that takes away their creative freedom. So I would not hammer out, right? I don't want to do that. Now, the only time I would do that is if you're maybe playing for someone who's younger, or they're not a confident singer and they need help with the melody, then that's fine. But generally speaking, if I'm playing for a soloist who's standing on the stage and I'm accompanying them and trying to craft, really nice piano accompaniment, I'm probably not going to hammer out the melody with them, because I'm going to assume you know the melody, you're singing the song, and you probably want to do interesting things with it. Now, that also means I have some freedom with the chords, right? Because it's not a choir, it's not everyone singing, and it's a soloist. And soloists often enjoy, in my experience, 9 out of 10 times, they really like it when you have fun with it too, right? I have to read the measures and stay in time the way that they know the song. I can't just rewrite the song, but I can have some fun. I can add stuff to the notes. I can add interesting notes to the chords. I can maybe change a chord, right? For example, in this song, Amazing Grace, I have played this song so many times, like hundreds of times for different situations. Sometimes this is the chord on, notice the measure of how sweet the sound, the chord on sweet. Sometimes it's this chord. That was a C major chord. How sweet, C major. Sometimes it's this chord, which is in this particular version that I found on the screen. Ooh, now we have a minor chord. So even in this song, if I'm playing Amazing Grace in the key of G, which it often is, sometimes that word sweet is on a C major. How sweet. Sometimes it's on a minor, E minor. How sweet. Right? So that means I have some fun. I can play around with it. So I, in general, am reading the chords and have a blueprint, but I have a bit of freedom to play around with the chords a bit. Maybe it's the same chord, but it's some inversions, right? Even this very first chord, amaze, that's a G major. Well, I can have fun making it flowy, right? I can do arpeggios. I can add some notes to give it a shine, what I call a shimmer. Adding a second, it really makes a big difference. So in G major chord, adding a second means I'm adding, what is the note if this is 1, 3, 5? What would 2 be? Here it's at A. Right? Same thing with, when I get to that sweet, I can add that second. I can do inversions. The sound, instead of going back to G, maybe I do it where B's on the bottom, right? You have different fun ways of doing it. So let me show you how I would play this hymn if I was handed this exact sheet music from the hymnal for Amazing Grace, how I would play it for a congregation and how I would play it for a special solo singer. And let me also throw in really fast, a lot of people will ask me, well, how do you come up with an intro? Because normally it's customary that the pianist plays an intro, but there's not an intro in any hymn sheet music. So what do? The typical traditional way is you just go to the end, jump to the end of the hymn, you play sort of the last line. So for Amazing Grace, I would play was blind, but now I see. So it's usually like around the last 4 measures or so. Just sort of what's the last line of the hymn. That's a great way to make an intro for it. Okay, and it's also customary to end how you end a hymn when you get to that last chord. One thing that's really popular is to do what's called the Amen chords, sometimes called the plagal chords, but it's basically whatever the 1 chord is. So we're in G major, so that's G major. Go to that major 4 chord, and you go back to 1. So that would be da 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 da. That's really popular. Or you can have some fun and come up with even your own interesting stuff. If you want to make it a little popish. So have fun with it. So here are my 2 examples of how I would do it for a congregation singing or a soloist singing. Okay, so let's pretend the music director says, all right, everyone rise and sing Amazing Grace with me. Okay, so I'm going to give an intro and then play through one verse of it in the style that I would for a congregation. Now, here is how I would play it for a singer singing it as a soloist on stage. Right? So a congregation version, it's me just trying to give it a lot of energy, bringing out the melody, giving it a steady sort of tempo, pulse, accompanying a soloist singing, trying to make it flowy, sound like pretty piano music, adding little touches to it, having freedom to change the chords up some, making it feel like it's more of a special version of the song. I hope this helps. Let me know in the comments if you are someone that have been in this situation before. Are you your piano player for your church service, or have you had to play for Christmas or Easter or other versions where you're reading out of a hymn? Let me know in the comments. Do these tips help you? I hope so. If this video was valuable to you, please give it a like, subscribe, comment, all of that fun stuff. Click on the video popping up on screen, and also let me know in the comments what topics you'd like me to cover in a future piano video. All right, I'm here to help you. So until next time, my name is Matt. Keep making music.